Sikhs and so many different firqas again. Even in the Dalits, there is this entire aspect of creamy layer.
It's human
upper
nature.
Dalit, lower Dalit, etc.
It's human nature that as long as there is an ego, if you look at it from Vedant point of view, as long as there is an ego, the ego wants to be better than others. It wants to expand, it wants to show off. And so if I can align with others who are similar in some respect, maybe I'll align with all the people who are St. Stephen's graduates, and we can have an identity and we can have some privileges. Or maybe I live in a certain town and we are prestigious, or maybe I have a language or common language or a common religion or whatever. People who have something in common and they feel that they can get together and get a preference and some advantage over other people. It could be nation state, that all the people of a certain country want to hang together. So when egos are grouped into a collective ego called identity politics, then you're going to have this. So some will be more successful than others, so there'll be a hierarchy. Hierarchy of power, hierarchy of privilege is unavoidable in any society. The communists tried to get rid of it and they failed. Even the Soviet Union had a hierarchy. There were these very privileged people living there. So all they did is they dismantled the meritocracy. They did not dismantle poverty. They dismantled meritocracy and they failed because they did not have enough meritocracy. So our tradition says, I have to look for my Swadharma.
Correct.
I should not copy your Swadharma. Maybe your Swadharma is you're a great basketball player and you're a great singer. Maybe my Swadharma is I'm good at math. So I should be good at math and there's nothing wrong with it, and I should respect you for being good in what you are good at.
So I got to balance your Swadharma, but I will continue to continue to hold sway over mine. So,
yes.
So somewhere that's what's happening, and this is not then equality. It's then looking at equity, saying that I'll reduce your equity and increase this equity.
Yes.
But at what cost? Cost of merit.
So the difference between equality and equity is important for people to know.
Yeah.
Equality is you give everybody an equal chance. So when the race starts, everybody starts with the same thing, and some will get ahead and win the prize.
Correct.
And not everybody. Equity says that we must have equal outcome.
So they should finish at the same time.
So we should have a certain percentage of people of this race, that race, this particular religion, that religion represented in the Harvard entrance class, because this is representative of society. So we want, it's like quotas. It is sort of like quotas. So what that does is meritocracy is toppled and equity becomes more important. And this is a big fashion in the American corporate life called DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion, and everybody is into this now, and this is being exported to India. So Indian corporates are being required to follow the American system of diversity, equity and inclusion. And American consulting companies and these Deloitte and Ernst & Young and Price Waterhouse and McKinsey and all these guys are making tons of money, giving seminars, workshops, and evaluating the ESG of their corporate clients in India. Environment, E for E, S is society, social justice, and G is the corporate governance. They're looking at, do you have enough Dalits in this and that job? Do you have too many Brahmins? Do you have enough Muslims? So this kind of a business is going on. And so what is happening is that since Indian corporates want foreign investment, and many of the big funds are looking at your ESG rating to see if you are good enough to give you money. So now what will happen is those who comply with the American idea of social justice will get more funding than those who don't. So, but this has nothing to do with India's idea of social justice. We have a different idea of social justice.
The policy is not thought from the India point of view, it's the West American point of view which is being imposed on us.
Yes.
Is that the reason why you believe that it is harmful to our civilization? Because India, Bharat, if you were to see, has always been open to ideas. We've always been a confluence of ideas. There have been many streams, different, all of them arguing with each other, but eventually coming to a consensus, and there is a place for everyone. Why would you say that this thought process, even though it's entering our system, is breaking India?
So, this is very important. You know, there is a harmony of flowers and plants and all that, diversity. But a weed is something that won't tolerate diversity, it will spread to kill others. Weed. A cancer is not a healthy cell, because but the body has many kinds of cells.
Yes.
But they are all in an equilibrium with each other. This is one kind of cell and it's happy. The neighboring cell is another kind of cell. Cancer is the expansionist cell. Cancer says that I'll make you like me, metastasize, turn you into another cancer cell like me, and I'll keep expanding until I've taken over the whole body. Of course, the irony is that after taking over the whole body is dead, even the cancer is dead. The cancer kills itself. It's self-defeating in a sense. But this is sort of like a cancer. This idea that of spreading in an imperialistic way. The Western universalism term I've coined long back. Western universalism, which is the spread of Western ideology based on Western history and Western philosophy, is actually like a weed spreading, because it's not tolerant and not respectful of the other side.
The other side.
And if it were another idea along with many, and there's no cancel culture anywhere, and this is a Marxism is an idea, the religion is an idea, I'm all for it, because it will enrich us. We will learn from it, but it should be bidirectional. It should not be power. It should not be that they have more money and they have more brand and they have a danda and they can put sanctions on us and they can deny us with investments because we are not complying with their criteria. It shouldn't be like that. If it were a level playing field and they just brought in good ideas, strong ideas, I would want to learn from them.
Well, this book also says that wokeism is entering our courts, and there's much more in these 22 chapters, but we've run out of time, Rajivji. So on that note, we're going to hit pause with the promise that you will give us time again and we'll take this conversation forward.
Fantastic. We'll do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Dynasty or by the Pandya dynasty. But I want to ask Rahul Ishwar this. Disingenuous is one word to describe, but what Vetrimaran said, he believes that Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. The Election Commission is proposing some sweeping electoral reforms, from cleaning up electoral rolls to campaign financing and allowing NRIs to vote. Now, these are very substantive reforms, many of which are long overdue. But opposition parties, almost all of them, have outright rejected these advances by the Election Commission. They are viewing it from a singular prism, and that is that the Election Commission is overstepping its jurisdiction, or simply that the Election Commission is doing all of this at the bidding of the central government. If there can be financial reforms in this country, banking reforms, stock market reforms, legal reforms, why cannot there be election reform?
The Swachh Politics campaign has begun. While speaking to CNN News 18, Union Law Minister Kiren Rijiju dropped a big hint of major reforms in the Representation of Peoples Act. Rijiju said that about 70 to 80 proposals for change in the RP Act is under consideration by the government. The electoral reform proposals are on candidates' poll expenditure, amount utilized for paid news, debarment of candidates, decisions on validity of an election in a time-bound manner, to supplement the existing model code guidelines and informing the voter on financial consequences of freebie promises. The Niti Aayog has welcomed the proposals and the intent of the poll body to make reforms in the decades-old law.
In a developing country like India, between freebies and growth, I feel that we should first see that targeted freebies are allowed. Rest of the freebies should not come at the cost to the growth.
But the opposition remains miffed on the reforms proposed. The opposition suggests that the amendments in the law should be made through Parliament.
Election Commission has no mandate for this. If there are some changes will have to be done in election laws, Parliament is there. Parliament is supreme in our democracy.
The RJD even attacked the poll body and called them an extension of the BJP. The party believes that these proposals will give the BJP an upper hand in the polls.
Election Commission's agenda is also to provide level playing field, according to 324. If they don't provide the level playing field, if they appear At the side of the government, I must tell you that electoral democracy is in danger in India.
Freebies are being debated for a while now. Even the Supreme Court had demanded a law to regularize freebies, as such poll promises can destroy the Indian economy. The big question now remains, will the numerous political parties of India accept the changes in our election laws?
All right, so the Election Commission had written a letter to the Law Minister in September where it said the following things. First, on the cleanup of funding for political parties, it said that cash donations to parties should be capped at 20% of the total or a maximum of 20 crores. Also, it went on to say that anonymous donations should be lowered to 2,000 rupees from the current 20,000 rupees. So anybody contributing more than 2,000 rupees to a political party needs to be identified. All donations above 2,000 have to be reported through the contribution report. Also, mandatory digital transactions for all poll expenses above 2,000 rupees to a single entity. So, why are some political parties unwelcoming of these changes? And do these opposition parties have a point when they say this is overstepping of its jurisdiction by the Election Commission? Sanju Verma, National Spokesperson of the BJP, joining us. Ashpreet Singh Khadial, spokesperson of the Congress Party. Priyanka Kakkar of the Aam Aadmi Party. Mahesh Tapase, spokesperson of the NCP, joining us. Kailash Adhikari is political analyst, and Sanjay Kumar, professor and former director with CSDS. I'll start with one area, which is the cleanup of electoral rolls. I want to ask Sanju Verma, as far as elections in India are concerned, we have electoral rolls for Lok Sabha, which is separate, for Vidhan Sabha, which is separate, and for other municipal and panchayat elections, which are separate. And oftentimes, it is the case that one person who has voted in a Lok Sabha election suddenly finds his or her name not there in a Vidhan Sabha election electoral roll. Shouldn't we have one electoral roll that's cleaned up from time to time instead of having multiple electoral rolls?
You know, Zaka, that's a very pertinent and timely suggestion. And I'm sure those, in the know of things and watching their show will take cognizance of it. I think, apart from what you mentioned about multiplicity of electoral rolls, if you go back in time over the last 7 to 8 odd years, on various platforms, Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself and his senior cabinet ministers have often said that rather than having an election every 6 months, be it a by-poll or a local body election or a panchayat election or a Vidhan Sabha election, why not have one nation, one election? And that is something that we intend delivering on going forward. But at this point in time, I just want to draw the attention of your audience to what is the moot point of the debate today. It is not just the Election Commission which is empowered under Articles 324, 325, 326, 327, 328 and 329 to ensure free and fair elections and take steps thereof. But the Supreme Court, way back in 2015, just 10 seconds, what did the Supreme Court say and which the Election Commission has reinforced while writing to various political parties to solicit their suggestions? The Supreme Court said, in the interest of transparency, level playing field and credibility of promise, it is expected that manifestos also reflect the rationale for the promises and broadly indicate the ways and means to meet the financial requirements for it. Trust of voters should be sought only on those promises which can possibly be fulfilled. This is the Supreme Court of India way back in 2015. And, 7 years hence, nothing has changed. We are only trying to give a voice to what the Apex Court wanted delivered on the ground for greater transparency.
One of the concerns for a number of years has been about clean funding of political parties, about the means of funding of political parties. So in order to curb the use of black money in elections, and I want to ask both Ashpreet Khadial as well as Priyanka Kakkar this, the Election Commission had proposed lowering the disclosure limit for anonymous donations from 20,000 rupees to 2,000 rupees. Any contribution above 2,000 rupees would have to be identified through the donor report. Now, the BSP, I'm just giving one example. The BSP, for instance, claims that it has received crores of rupees in political donations from small amounts from tens of thousands of individuals, but it does not name who those individuals are. Because earlier, you needed to name only above 20,000. So the question is, why should such a leeway be made for political parties? If you as individual taxpayers, you and I as individual taxpayers have to reveal our sources of income, then why should an exception be made to political parties? Ashpreet Kadyal.
See, number one, if when it comes to the BJP, it's only big talk and no action at all whatsoever. They say they have a problem with freebies. They say they have a problem with rebadi culture, Mr. Modi especially. However, they haven't even considered defining what freebies are. They haven't even, told us if they will do that in the first place in the future also. Because it is very important that, all this talk, all this debate, all these press notes, they lead to something conclusive and constructive. However, there is no clarity and there's only confusion, room for doubt, if as to what freebie is.
No,
and
but we're not talking about the freebie debate, Ashpreet. We're not talking about the freebie debate today. We're talking about the other reforms proposed by the Election Commission. So I want your views on that.
These are connected, if you may allow me, because electoral bonds as well. When people are paying tax on curd, on wheat, on rice, on paneer, on 20 rupees ki lassi, why should they not be paying, the people who are contributing not be paying tax on 20,000 rupee donations? Now, the limit is on 20,000. However, you can make a 20,000 donation for 20,000 more times. You won't be asked a single word. And where does this all this money go? And why should they not pay tax on 20,000, but people have to pay on 20 rupees? This is a big question. And number two, let's not just talk. Let's do something productive and, conclusive. Because
One second, Ashpreet, I'm not sure how paying tax and revealing the name of a donor are connected. But revealing the name of a donor is a simple premise. If individuals in this country, if companies and corporations in this country have to reveal their sources of income, why shouldn't political parties be asked to reveal their source of income? But the point on electoral bonds is valid. That matter is before the Supreme Court. So I'll ask Priyanka Kakkar that. How can you tackle the issue? How can you tackle the issue of black money in politics or black money in campaign financing if you do not tackle anonymous electoral bonds? I think that is a valid question to ask. But ultimately, it boils down to, are you going to clean up the electoral process? Because in this country, we've seen reforms in all kinds of areas, from banking reforms to private sector reforms, even government sector reforms have been happening for a number of years now. Why can't we have electoral reforms in this country?
The BJP has maximum when it
Good
comes
evening,
to
Zaka. Good evening to all of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So, Zaka, I think Aam Aadmi Party would be the first party in the country which spoke about transparency in donations. Now, what happened subsequently, Zaka? Central government came up with a law and made amendments which permitted anonymous funding and anonymous taking and anonymous giving. And also what happened, Zaka, is, in 2018, you will recall, the High Court of Delhi the Honorable High Court of Delhi had phatkaroed both these parties, that BJP and the Congress, that you are in violation of the FCRA Act. What did they do? They went back to the parliament and brought in amendments in the FCRA Act which permitted them foreign donations since 1965. So all violations absolved. So today, if
Priyanka,
you say that
one second. May I just underline one thing? All parties, including your party, receive foreign contributions. From individuals who may be supporters of your party, you receive foreign contributions. Of course, it has to be within the law of the land.
We had no problem
The point is this. Now the Election Commission is saying, if it is okay for all political parties to seek and get foreign contributions from non-resident Indians, then why not a proposal on allowing non-resident Indians voting rights? It's on the table. Let's discuss.
What has happened? No, let's first please let's not digress today. I will discuss on this too, but subsequently today I want to definitely discuss the reforms proposed by the EC and why they have been proposed. That is the debate and I would like to please speak about it.
Yes. This is also part of those reforms. Yes,
so
go ahead.
Coming to the freebies issue, Zaka, if you will recall, coming to the independence of the Election Commission, that is the major issue, Zaka. And why that is because you will recall, Zaka, in 2019, Ashok Lavasaji, when he was one of the 2 election commissioners of India, he wrote a dissenting note that when it comes to BJP, the violations are completely ignored. The violations of the MCC during the 2019 elections, for example, were completely ignored and very weak action was taken.
Okay.
This was Ashok Lavasaji's dissenting note, and what happened? The central agencies hounded him and his family members.
So
That
you're
is what
basically
happened. That is
saying
one
that
instance.
questioning
And who doesn't-
the integrity
No,
of the
let me complete,
EC
Zaka.
as an institution. Okay. No, I've got limited time in today's debate, and there are 6
No,
guests, so I
I-
need to go to
I have to-
others also. Please, ma'am, with your permission. Let me go to Mr. Tapase of the NCP. One area that all political parties pay lip service to, but eventually do nothing about, is the criminals in politics, or people with criminal antecedents in politics. Now, in the current Maharashtra Assembly, out of 288, 172 MLAs, Mr. Tapase, more than 50%, face grave criminal charges, many of them heinous charges, including rape and murder. Why should the Election Commission not put out a proposal that those who are facing heinous criminal charges should not be allowed to stand for elections?
Well, the current policies that
I can't hear you, Mr. Tapase. You have to speak louder.
can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Can you hear me, Zaka?
Yes.
I said the current policy, any political party making any candidate face the election in this scenario, and he having some kind of charges against him, the political party has to declare in a written advertisement, about the criminal antecedents of the candidate. So this is the law as of which is the latest amendment. So as far as whether the charges will be proved or not is another question. For that, judicial reforms have to come in place in a time-bound manner in which the entire judiciary has to operate, and they have to define any, let's say, X charge has to be dismissed, or either he has to be acquitted or convicted within such frame of time. So charges cannot go on forever. So unless and until you are not proved guilty, you are considered to be innocent, and that is the recourse that people take.
Agreed on that. Agreed on that. That yes, the criminal justice system in this country takes a long time to deliver justice. All I'm saying is, forget about cases which you feel are lighter charges, or cases which you feel are maybe politically motivated, rivals, so on and so forth. But surely rape and murder are heinous enough to disbar somebody from a political party from putting up a candidate who has rape and murder charges against him or her. I think that's a fair bottom line to start from.
Yeah, but at the same time, as far as my party is concerned, we have not put up any candidate with such a serious background. At the same time, there are people. The Representation of the People Act still allows any person, despite any kind of charge against him, to contest as an independent. So if you don't plan something on a policy matter, then everything, the criminal jurisprudence, everything has to be taken into account.
Okay. Let me again. There is a bit of an audio issue with Mr. Tapase. We'll try and fix that. But let me also go across to Professor Sanjay Kumar, because Professor Kumar has been in the business of psephology and opinion polls and exit polls for a number of decades now. One of the proposals, and we don't know if this will pass muster, but one of the proposals by the Election Commission is to regulate the publication or the broadcast of opinion and exit polls. In fact, former Chief Election Commissioner S.Y. Qureshi is on record to say that he believes, and I don't think he represents the views of the entire Election Commission, but he believes in his individual capacity that opinion polls actually influence the electoral process. If the Election Commission were to take this step of banning opinion polls and exit polls, would that be in the spirit of democracy, or would it go against it?
Zaka, I won't favor any ban or complete restriction on publication or dissemination of any opinion poll or exit poll. But yes, regulation I fully support if there are suggestions, or there are suggestions made by Election Commission for regulating. I am totally in favor of regulating the polls, because in the name of polls, a lot of trash is being shown to the viewer or printed in the newspaper. So regulation means transparency. When I say regulation, it is about transparency, about the methodology, about the funding sources of these polls, about the parties or the agencies who have commissioned these polls. So, I am totally in favor of transparency about these polls, not only about the method, also about its publication, etc. But as I said earlier, I am not in favor of complete ban on opinion poll or exit poll.
No, I think the critical question is the accountability. We have seen, and I know you've very ardently advocated that it's very difficult in a country like India to get seats right. But we have seen, forecasts and estimates go horribly wrong. So I think the Election Commission is coming to it from the point of view of whether there's a ban or not, that's a separate matter. But there needs to be accountability if a prediction has gone horribly wrong.
I don't know what would be the parameter to judge accountability, in a sense whether the poll have got right or wrong. Because when you do the polls, whether you are doing an opinion poll or an exit poll, you actually estimate the vote share. Because you go to the people and ask which party they are likely to vote for or which party they have voted for. It is a separate thing how these votes get translated into seats. If you look at the Indian electoral system, in Karnataka, last several elections, the party which gets less vote, which is BJP, always got larger number of seats, while Congress always gets more votes and get less number of seats. Look at the Lok Sabha elections, Zaka. Congress had, BJP had 18.6% vote in 2009 Lok Sabha elections, and they ended up getting 116 seats. Look at the situation of Congress in 2014. Congress had 19.6% vote, they ended up getting 44% vote. Can Election Commission explain that why a party with similar number of votes are getting different kinds of seats? That is the equation which works with the pollsters also. You may get vote estimates right, but converting those votes into seats, that's a mathematical equation. You may not get it right, as the parties get similar number of votes, do not get similar number of seats.
One other proposal that's been put forth, and again we'll have to see if the government actually brings a bill on this, is linking Aadhaar with electoral rolls. Now, Kailash Adhikari, this has been a bit of a concern. Even after the Parliament passed this bill last December, we still do not know how effective, first of all, this will be in weeding out duplicate enrollment or duplicate electoral rolls and duplicate names on the electoral rolls. And most importantly, can this be made mandatory at a time when the Supreme Court verdict on linking of Aadhaar with other other categories and other concepts has been struck down by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has said that nothing can be mandatorily linked with Aadhaar.
Surely, Zaka, and that is why in the Election Commission's proposal, it is that it is strongly recommended and it does not mandate the linking of Aadhaar with your electoral rolls, just as in the case of Aadhaar and PAN, as the Honorable Supreme Court has said that you cannot mandate anyone. Now, Zaka, to this entire point of the Election Commission coming out with approximately 70-80 proposals of overhauling the system is that we as a nation are 75 years old. And with each passing time, you learn of certain things of experiences. With each passing day, we grow, and growth involves evolution. And it's high time that, after each and every sector sees reforms after a certain passage of time. As you rightly mentioned in the beginning, we have seen banking reforms, we are seeing judicial reforms, we'll see policing reforms. So why not electoral reforms? I mean, we are the largest democracy of the world, and the entire process of election, the democracy hinges on that. It is on that. And having said that, certain issues such as online voting. Now, this is a very interesting proposal. Now, people could be anywhere. People could be. I may not be. Let's say someone is not able to vote because he's sick or has or he's somewhere. That does not mean that his right to vote should be taken away because on that one fateful day he or she is not able to vote. So, online voting. Voting by NRIs, I mean, there could be difference of opinions also. A person who's not living in Chicago, how could he know the ground realities? Let's say if he's from Lucknow. So whether that person should be allowed to vote or not, there could be biased opinions. With regards to freebies, yes, they should be made accountable. You can not just, in order to grab the votes, say that you're providing free electricity, free water, without knowing how will you provide for it. You cannot just divert budgets from other sectors or other heads, and that head suffers because you've just promised this particular by knowing the pulse of the
Let me go back to Sanju Verma. As far as the cleanup of electoral financing is concerned, and I think this is the point that both Priyanka Kakkar and Ashdeep Kardial were making. Yes, it's a great proposal to have non-anonymous donations above 2,000 rupees, but what about anonymous electoral bonds?
Zaka,
I just have to say one very important thing. In your introduction, you mentioned about, banking reforms, cleaning up various other aspects of the financial sector. So why should Modi government take the backseat when it comes to electoral reforms? And Kailash Adhikari pretty much the same point. I just want to tell you, quickly before answering your question, there was this whole debate about why link Aadhaar cards with the electoral rolls. And in support of doing that, I just have this to say that this is the same lot which protested when Aadhaar was introduced. But today, in the last 5 years alone, and I culled out this data from the Finance Ministry's website, 18,000 fake NGOs, 2.5 lakh fake companies, 5 crore fake ration cards, 3 crore fake LPG connections, 2 crore fake Manrega cards, 6 lakh fake midday meal beneficiaries, and 80,000 fake teachers have been culled out of the system to ensure better transparency and accountability. And the election reforms that Kiran Rijiju, the Law Ministry and Election Commission are talking of, is on similar lines. And the Aam Aadmi Party made a very interesting observation about the independence of the Election Commission. I just want to say one thing to her. Before casting aspersions on the apex electoral body, let me tell you that it is out in the public domain. The Ford Foundation gave $134 million in the last 7 years, out of which 80% went to Aam Aadmi Party, and madam, 80% of $134 million is $107 million. So first, please give the hisab kitab of what you have received from the Ford Foundation and then give an integrity certificate to the Election Commission.
Okay, Priyanka Kakkar, respond to that. And I keep coming back to that point. I mean, all parties, including yours, have received foreign funding. So why are you hesitant in giving NRIs voting rights?
Let me please first give a rebuttal to what the BJP spokesperson was saying. Now, she admitted that the electoral reforms were proposed by the Modi government and not by the Election Commission of India. Election Commission of India has outlived the reputation of TN Session Ji. Why I say this, and before the Supreme Court in the July of this year, 2022, the Supreme Court asked, what is your stand on freebies? And the Haath Khade Kar the Election Commission that please don't ask us. And then the Supreme Court phatkaroed the center and said, why are you hesitant to take a stand on it? So what is happening is, these reforms around elections are only to, see, they have already collected all the money. You think from the past 8 years, they've collected so much in electoral reforms, it's not transparent, kisne diya, kisne liya, because, corporates have an affinity with the ruling government. So, this is the BJP doing it because it is for the first time that it is actually scared of Aam Aadmi Party in Gujarat. That is the reason. So they're bringing in these reforms. They want free bijli na mile, free pani na mile, free shiksha na mile, free bus yatra na mile, महिलाओं को free bus yatra na mile.
Okay. No shouting, please. No shouting. No crosstalk. It's not going to help you or our viewers.
Why should the taxpayer money not be given to the taxpayer?
Okay. No, I'll come back to Ashpreet Kadyal. Ashpreet Kadyal, the problem is leaving all of these reforms to political parties to do, as we have seen over the last 20, 30 years. Nothing gets done, whether it's criminals in politics, whether it is, transparency in funding. None of this gets done because political parties have a vested interest in protecting their turf, in protecting the people who fund them, in protecting the criminal elements who get elected on their tickets. So why should we expect, it's naive to expect political parties to reform from within?
See, definitely, when we ask questions from the central government, the BJP, about, electoral bonds, because the entire objective is, clean up, transparency, accountability, and electoral bonds is the major issue here. If you do not talk about electoral bonds, but this, I think it would be...
No, but that is pending before the Supreme Court. Let the Supreme Court come to a conclusion on whether anonymous electoral bonds are allowed or not.
No, one second, please. I think it is Supreme Court has already, back in the day also, Supreme Court has said that the political parties ought to take an initiative, and the center hasn't taken an initiative but has turned a blind eye to all these things because they're when it comes to electoral bonds, everybody knows that the BJP has benefited the most. And
Okay,
number two,
I'm completely out of time. I want to thank all our guests because we have a truncated debate tonight here on Brass Tacks. But like I said, I think if we have seen reforms in multiple sectors across this country, then there's no reason why we cannot have election reforms in this country. We'll take a quick break. When we come back on the other side, it's a massive row over Ponniyin Selvan. Now, actor Kamal Haasan has weighed in and said that there was no Hindu or Hindu religion back in the 9th century when the Chola dynasty was in place, and therefore there were only Shiva bucks or Vishnu bucks, and that has, of course, stirred off a huge debate. Right on the other side, we'll have that. On screen. Is that just inherently a problem with period films, or can you think of any instances where a period film has come out without any controversy, the depiction of one or the other historical figure or religious figure?
Before I talk about the point whether the films have really, are there any issues with the periodic films that come from, I would like to talk about that era where, N.T. Ramarao, Shobhan Babu, and many, senior actors also worked on this mythology and periodic films.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody raised an issue with who is playing who, why is he playing that, or where did this come from, what was the source and all.
Correct.
But now with social media, Wikipedia, and everything, what everybody writes on the internet is available for people from across the world. People are so, enthusiastic to talk about whatever they find. But I wonder, no, really, there is no periodic film that has been released without any complaints, or what people want to talk about, the issues they raised. Why did they portray this actor or this person in this character? If he's a Muslim guy, why does he want to play a Hindu on the screen? All these issues happen. But being somebody who has closely worked in the production, post-production, pre-production of a film, people should actually stop doing this every time a film related to mythology or periodic films release, because the amount of effort that goes into making a film is not easy.
No,
not
but
easy
Bhavna,
as you write a
the
tweet.
counter to that is
So
there are people who say that filmmakers themselves do this sometimes to try and make sure that the film is a talking point, and therefore and we know how much opening weekend is important in this day and age. Is there any truth to that?
No, I don't think so. Why would somebody want to make? Why a filmmaker like Mani Ratnam, who gave the 5 Ponniyin Selvan books to his wife Suhasini before they got married, to seek help from her in writing a one-liner and a script of the story. I mean, literally, who worked for 30-35 films on the script, years on this, writing the script for this film, would want to make a controversy, that too after 10 days of the release of a film, and is doing really well in all the languages at the box office.
Okay.
I really wonder.
So, Sumant, I want to come back to the political point, and I think a valid point that was raised by Mr. Muralidharan. Is there a sense that some of these fringe political parties, the VCK, the Nam Tamizhar Katchi, are basically hijacking what is the Dravidian mainstream, as it were, for their own narrow political ends, and they are, fueling this whole fire that Dravidianism was always anti-Hindu and was against Hindu icons and Hindu gods?
I think that as far as the VCK is concerned, the communist parties are concerned, I would agree with you. The NTK is a slightly different entity. They are strong supporters of Shaivite religion, so they are not against religion itself. They claim that Shaivism is different and today's modern Hinduism is different, but they accept the worship of God. But Zaka, the thing is, what happens is something that the DMK is not realizing at this point of time, is that the narrative that is constantly, with debates on topics of whether, Rajaraja Chola, for instance, was a Hindu, and then A. Raja's statement a few days ago, and, you have this kind of almost constant, plus, of course, the gaps by the various ministers. I think that the narrative is slowly being built that the DMK chief seems to have lost control over his alliance partners and indeed some of his own ministers. So I think that that's not good for the DMK from a political perspective. Clearly, look, the RSS wanted to have a rally on Gandhi Jayanti Day. the VCK was, not the DMK, the VCK it was who went to court and said that they want to hold a counter rally on the same day. So the court said the RSS to hold the rally in November and the VCK to hold their rally on the 11th of October.
Okay.
So I think that that was clearly a move which the DMK would have probably, nudge the VCK into acting. So I think that there is a narrative which is being created, and for the DMK, they have to understand, Mr. Stalin needs to understand that times have changed. We are not in the 60s and 70s.
All right, I'll give Rahul the final word.
Last, one point, Zaka.
Quickly, yeah.
By the way, Kamal Hassan is incorrect when he says that the word Hindu was coined by the British. That is factually incorrect. It has been there from the 15th century onwards.
Okay.
So that again is incorrect.
All right, Rahul, I'll give you the final word. Again, I come back to where I started off. Saying that Rajaraja Cholan was not a Hindu king is like saying Tipu Sultan was not a Muslim king. I mean, it's as big a truism as there would be.
Saka, the word Hindu comes from Sindhu, and I know the Persians and the Arabs used to call it Hapta Hindu, and because they didn't have S, Asura became Ahura. But the core point here is, as a Hindu activist from Brahmin community, I concede there has been some historical injustices which really provoked the Dravidian movement at that point of time. But we have reformed ourselves greatly through people like Swami Vivekananda or Mahatma Gandhi or Subramania Bharati or even Periyar Ramaswamy Naikar. So it is time to shun this divisiveness, accept as it is. There are Shaivites, and how can you deny such an obvious reality? Just because you don't like some historical injustices, you cannot, deride Hinduism as such or Hindu culture as such.
All right,
so
we'll leave it at that. I'm completely out of time. Thanks very much. Good evening, this is Viewpoint. I'm Zaka Jacob. There is a massive controversy brewing over the latest Mani Ratnam film, Ponniyin Selvan. It started with fellow filmmaker Vetrimaran saying that there is an attempt of late to try and Hinduize Dravidian icons like Thiruvalluvar, the great poet, and Rajaraja Cholan, the great king of the Chola dynasty. Now, actor and superstar Kamal Hassan has weighed in on this debate. He has said that there was no concept of Hindu or Hinduism at the time of the Chola dynasty. Now, while Kamal Hassan may be technically right, the fact is that the Cholas were Shaivites. They were big bhakts of Shiva. And Rajaraja Cholan, in fact, is credited with building one of the biggest Shiva temples in South India, the Brihadishwara temple, or the big temple in Tanjavur as it's known. So who exactly is trying to stoke this fire?
Mani Ratnam's Ponniyin Selvan 1 is a hit at the box office.
तलवार मैं केवल चोल साम्राज्य के लिए उठा सकता.
But the movie is now surrounded by controversy over the identity of the Cholas. First, it was Tamil director Vetrimaran who claimed that Rajaraja Cholan was not a Hindu king. And there have been constant attempts to saffronize Valluvar and snatch their symbols. Today, actor turned politician Kamal Hassan echoed that very view and appealed to the film fraternity to not exaggerate or twist history.
இந்து மதங்கிற பேர் ராஜராஜ சோழன் காலத்தில் கிடையாது. அப்படி வைணவம்னு இருந்தது, சைவம்னு இருந்தது, சமணம்னு இருந்ததே தவிர அது வெள்ளக்காரங்க நமக்கு வச்ச பேர்.
Not only members of the Tamil film industry, politicians too are backing that view. It was VCK first, and now the DMK has also alleged that history is being misrepresented.
There is a lot of difference between Vaishnavism and Saivism. So at that time of Rajaraja Chola, there is a clear-cut difference.
The BJP have been quick to refute the claims made by Kamal Hassan and Vetrimaran. The BJP firmly believes that Rajaraja Cholan was in fact a Hindu king, and the statements are being made to get some public attention.
If Vetrimaran or Kamal Hassan or Thirumavalavan says that Rajaraja Cholan is not a Hindu, I can only pity them.
Amid this controversy, the movie has blazed past the 300 crore mark worldwide. Viewers and critics have highly rated the movie, but the biggest question now arising is, who is stoking this religious fire?
All right, let's break down this row over Ponniyin Selvan. What exactly are the charges and the counters to those charges? Charge number one is that the film depicts Rajaraja Cholan as a Hindu. The claim by Vetrimaran and others is that Rajaraja Cholan was not a Hindu. Kamal Haasan weighing in and saying that there was no Hinduism during the Chola time. In fact, Cholan himself called himself as a Chola devotee, as a Shiva devotee. That's what the charge is, or the counter is from the right. The charge is that there was no Hinduism. Of course, this is something that Kamal Haasan has also said in his comments after watching the movie. No Hinduism or the term Hindu during the Chola time. The counter is that what were the churches or mosques or other religious institutions other than temples that were built by the Cholas? The charge is that history is misrepresented, it is being manipulated. The counter is that fake atheists, remember the Dravidian movement did not believe in God, they were rationalists. There is a massive controversy brewing over the latest Mani Ratnam film Ponniyin Selvan. It started with fellow filmmaker Vetrimaran saying that there is an attempt of late to try and Hinduize Dravidian icons like Thiruvalluvar, the great poet, and Rajaraja Cholan, the great king of the Chola dynasty. Now, actor and superstar Kamal Haasan has weighed in on this debate. He has said that there was no concept of Hindu or Hinduism at the time of the Chola dynasty. Now, while Kamal Haasan may be technically right, the fact is that the Cholas were Shaivites. They were big bhakts of Shiva. And Rajaraja Cholan, in fact, is credited with building one of the biggest Shiva temples in South India, the Brihadishwara temple, or the big temple in Tanjavur as it's known. So who exactly is trying to stoke this fire?
Mani Ratnam's Ponniyin Selvan 1 is a hit at the box office.
तलवार मैं केवल चोल साम्राज्य के लिए उठा सकता.
But the movie is now surrounded by controversy over the identity of the Cholas. First, it was Tamil director Vetrimaran who claimed that Rajaraja Cholan was not a Hindu king. And there have been constant attempts to saffronize Valluvar and snatch their symbols. Today, actor turned politician Kamal Haasan echoed that very view and appealed to the film fraternity to not exaggerate or twist history.
இந்து மதங்கிற பேர் ராஜராஜ சோழன் காலத்தில் கிடையாது. அப்படி வைணவம்னு இருந்தது, சைவம்னு இருந்தது, சமணம்னு இருந்ததே தவிர அது வெள்ளக்காரங்க நமக்கு வச்ச பேர்.
Not only members of the Tamil film industry, politicians too are backing that view. It was VCK first, and now the DMK has also alleged that history is being misrepresented.
There is a lot of difference between Vaishnavism and Saivism. So at that time of Rajaraja Chola, there is a clear-cut difference.
The BJP have been quick to refute the claims made by Kamal Haasan and Vetrimaran. The BJP firmly believes that Rajaraja Cholan was in fact a Hindu king, and the statements are being made to get some public attention.
If Vetrimaran or Kamal Haasan or Thirumavalavan says that Rajaraja Cholan is not a Hindu, I can only pity them.
Amid this controversy, the movie has blazed past the 300 crore mark worldwide. Viewers and critics have highly rated the movie, but the biggest question now arising is, who is stoking this religious fire?
All right, let's break down this row over Ponniyin Selvan. What exactly are the charges and the counters to those charges? Charge number one is that the film depicts Rajaraja Cholan as a Hindu. The claim by Vetrimaran and others is that Rajaraja Cholan was not a Hindu. Kamal Haasan weighing in and saying that there was no Hinduism during the Chola time. In fact, Cholan himself called himself as a Chola devotee, as a Shiva devotee. That's what the charge is, or the counter is from the right. The charge is that there was no Hinduism. Of course, this is something that Kamal Haasan has also said in his comments after watching the movie. No Hinduism or the term Hindu during the Chola time. The counter is that what were the churches or mosques or other religious institutions other than temples that were built by the Cholas? The charge is that history is misrepresented, it is being manipulated. The counter is that fake atheists, remember the Dravidian movement did not believe in God, they were rationalists. Fake atheists find problems in the Hindu religion. And finally, the charge is that some of the Dravidian symbols, this is what Vetrimaran alluded to first in his comments on the 1st of October, that some of the Dravidian symbols, Thiruvalluvar, Rajaraja Soran, etc., are being snatched away and given a different interpretation. The counter is, this is an attempt to try and denigrate Hindu gods and goddesses. Let me now go across to our guests who are joining us. Sumant C. Raman, political analyst, joining us. S. Muralidharan is a political analyst as well. Rahul Ishwar, also on the broadcast this evening. Gautam Chintamani is a film historian. And Bhavna Tanme, film critic, also on the broadcast. Sumant, let me start with you first. As someone who is a native from there, a resident from there, Kamal Haasan is technically right when he says there was no term called Hindu or Hinduism at the time of Rajaraja Soran. But then the fact is that everybody knows that the big temple or the Brihadishwara temple in Thanjavur was built for Lord Shiva. It was built by Rajaraja Soran. To say that he was not a Hindu king is disingenuous.
I think, Zaka, I'm not able to understand the purpose of this because see, Kamal Haasan is an extremely intelligent person. So he is unlikely to be unaware of the fact that Shaivism is one of the main arms of Hinduism as we know it today. And merely because the term Hindu did not exist at that point of time does not mean that what Rajaraja Sola followed was some other faith. Shaivism and is an essential part of Sanatana Dharma, which is basically the precept that has lasted for centuries of time. So the point is, by trying to make this technical kind of distinction on the word Hindu, I don't know what Mr. Kamal Haasan hopes to achieve. Look, the best part, Zaka, for me today is the DMK. Mr. T.K. Silangovan is on record accepting that he was a Shaivite king, which is a start. I mean, until a few days ago, I haven't seen too many of them even accept that he was a Shaivite. Now, the second part is, I was on another debate, and there was a member from the VCK, which is a party known for its extreme views on such topics, particularly, Hinduism. And a representative there also said twice, he's not a Hindu king, he's a Shaivite king. They both mean the same. Just because the term was not there. No, my question is, what was the principle that Rajaraja Sola followed? Was it the principle of Sanatana Dharma? Was it the principles which today in the modern world are identified with the Hindu faith or not? That is the bottom line.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about
unfortunately,
it. In fact,
unfortunately, nobody is asking that question.
The biggest Shiva temples across Tamil Nadu and across South India were built either by the Chola dynasty or by the Pandya dynasty. But I want to ask Rahul Ishwar this. Disingenuous is one word to describe, but what Vetrimaran said, he believes that there seems to be an attempt to try and saffronize some of the Dravidian icons, whether it was Thiruvalluvar, the great poet, or showing him in saffron robes, or now Rajaraja Soran being shown as a Hindu king. He says that this is trying to portray Dravidianism and Dravidian icons in bad light. How do you respond to that?
Zaka, 2 points. One, the word Hindu is a bit amorphous. We all agree. 1995, Brahmachari Siddheshwar Sai was a state of West Bengal. Our Honorable Supreme Court quoted the former Chief Justice P.B. Gajendra Kadkar, who rightly said, Hindu is a way of life. And Hindu is life and commonwealth of so many faiths. We have so many diverse paths. For example, I follow the Ayyappa path. There are Shaivites, Vaishnavites, or those who follow Subramanya, Shakteyas, Arya Samajis, Brahma Samajis. Even atheists have a place in the Hindu plan of things. So Hindu paradigm is a bit very wide. And as Sumant C. Raman sir rightly pointed out, even though the word may not be technically at that point of time, this culture or civilization is generally called as what is Hindu. You can call it Indic, you can call it Arshya Bharata Sanskriti, you can call it Indian culture. Whichever name you want to call, that culture was always there. Second, the Dravidianism movement rose as as against the anti-Brahmanism or the anti-Brahmanical mindset at that point of time. And we all respect Ramaswamy Naikar, who contributed to freedom struggle, who even inspired Mahatma Gandhi for liquor prohibition. But please remember, even his name is Ramaswamy Naikar. So, Sri Ram is that much prevalent everywhere. And look at the official logo of Tamil Nadu. It's a temple. So, the Hindu cultural framework is definitely there. Yes, there has been attempt by certain people to de-Hinduize things. See, I am a proud Hindu activist. At the same point of time, there is no need to either over-saffronize or de-Hinduize. Both are some tendencies. And please remember, Thiruvalluvar is a great dharmic Hindu poet himself. How can we deny the roots of Thiruvalluvar, who have wrote invocations to various deities, who taught about, the great cultural, ecosystem of India. So please don't de-Hinduize them. Yes, it is one thing to say that we should not be communal. Nobody wants to be communal.
Yes.
But at the same time, associate good things with Hindu. Kamala Hassan's are
what I want to know from S. Muralidharan is, this whole Dravidian versus Hindu gods, Hindu icons, or the de-Hinduization that Rahul Ishwar talks about, stems from this whole narrative wars that Dravidianism was against Hindu gods. Now, you look at the two biggest Dravidian parties in Tamil Nadu, one DMK, the other ADMK. Mr. Stalin is on record on number of occasions where he has said that there are a number of people in his party who are believers. He has in fact cited the example of his own wife who is a believer. No one ever, on the other side, you look at the ADMK, you look at EPS or OPS, no one ever accuses them of being anti-Hindu. In fact, they wear a vibhuti, both of them, wherever they go. So, where is this narrative war stemming from that Dravidianism is anti-Hindu or trying to de-Hinduize Hindu icons and gods?
It's the current politics, Zaka. If you look at the current politics, the state is actually, the law and order is in shambles. We had something close to 130 murders in last 30 days, and things are not hunky-dory. Price rise is there. You have the EB, everything, electricity price hike is there. Then we have price hike in forms of, property taxes and registrations, everything. So people are unhappy. And adding to this is recently concluded election inside the secretariat. Union election where the opposition of DMK has won. So there is a lot of displeasure and hate towards the current ruling dispensation. That's one. So, and adding to this is the PFI ban, where the Tamil Nadu government had to go and ban them because it was instruction from the Home Ministry. Now, because of that, we know that minority were the stronghold and the supporters of the DMK party, and these people had become unhappy about it. And people like Vidudalai Chirtaigal, Mr. Thirumavalavan, or Nam Tamilar Katchi, Mr. Seeman, all these people who sing this tune is only because most of their parties are funded by these fringe elites. The PFI and VCKs, they're glued together. So obviously there is pressure from them. So they need to counter-attack. So this is a part of a counter-attack towards this PFI ban, where they want to demonize RSS or the Sangh or the saffronization, and they are targeting Hinduism for that, thinking that they are attacking Modi. Unfortunately, it's working against them. It's hurting all Hindu
It's an interesting political point that you've made. I'll come back to that in just a moment, but I want to go to Gautam Chintamani and to Bhavna as well. Gautam Chintamani, there have been other depictions, other adaptations of Ponniyin Selvan, nothing quite as grand as this or opulent as this, both on the big screen, and most importantly, there have been theatrical adaptations of Ponniyin Selvan. Why this controversy vis-a-vis this movie? And usually when, there are controversies around a movie, it is in the run-up to that movie. It's when trailers are there, people haven't watched the full film. I've watched the full film, and I'm very clear in my mind that he was being as true to the text as possible. So why then this controversy a week or 10 days after the movie has released? I mean, help us understand that.
Well, Zaka, I think it largely has to do with the fact that it's a as grab is what is going to help the narrative and attract attention. On the statement of Mr. Kamal Hassan, I think it's a very infantile statement. It is something which is refuted by nearly everybody on the panel here, and anybody who has even the slightest sense of history will know that there is very little truth to the statement that Mr. Kamal Hassan has made, or Mr. Vetrimaran's statement that Kamal Hassan is pushing. Because at the end of the day, I mean, if the greatest of the kings has built the finest of the temples, for Hindu gods and deities, how can that king not be a Hindu king? Now that's a question which is completely debatable. You can look at the terms, you can look at how one wants to interpret the text. But the fact of the matter remains that, like you rightly said, it comes at 10 days after the film's release, and I think this is going to give the film a push, and this is also going to give, who knows, maybe there's another film on similar subject or similar topic, or Kamal Hassan's next film, which is out there. And let's not forget that Kamal Hassan has also forayed into active politics, and his stance, his party stance, is clearly against what the central government has right now.
Yeah.
So anything that gets him eyeballs would be lapped up by the media. And Kamal Hassan is one of our finest actors. He's one of our greatest artists. And anything that he says is given attention and debated about. But I think this particular statement of his is as infantile as it can get. And to my mind, it's only to push the film or to generate a sense of curiosity about Mr. Kamal Hassan himself, or the artist Kamal Hassan, or the politician Kamal Hassan.
Okay. Bhavna, there has been problems or elements raised concerns about the way historic events and historic figures are portrayed. And this has happened, whether it is a Jodha Akbar or the most recent Adi Purush also, there's a lot of controversy about how history is portrayed on screen. Is that just inherently a problem with period films, or can you think of any instances where, a period film has come out without any controversy, the depiction of one or the other historical figure or religious figure?
Before I talk about the point whether the films have really, are there any issues with the periodic films that come from, I would like to talk about that era where, N.T. Ramarao, Shobhan Babu, and many, senior actors also worked on this mythology and periodic films.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody raised an issue with who is playing who, why is he playing that, or where did this come from, what was the source and all.
Correct.
But now with social media, Wikipedia, and everything, what everybody writes on the internet is available for people from across the world. People are so, enthusiastic to talk about whatever they find. But I wonder, no, really, there is no periodic film that has been released without any complaints, or what people want to talk about, the issues they raised. Why did they portray this actor or this person in this character? If, he's a Muslim guy, why does he want to play a Hindu on the screen? All these issues happen. But being somebody who has closely worked in the production, post-production, pre-production of a film, people should actually stop doing this every time a film related to mythology or periodic films release, because the amount of effort that goes into making a film is not easy. Not easy
Bhavna,
as you write a tweet.
The counter to that is so there are people who say that filmmakers themselves do this sometimes to try and make sure that the film is a talking point, and therefore and we know how much opening weekend is important in this day and age. Is there any truth to that?
No, I don't think so. Why would somebody want to why a filmmaker like Mani Ratnam, who gave the 5 Ponniyin Selvan books to his wife Suhasini before they got married, to seek help from her in writing a one-liner and a script of the story. I mean, literally, who worked for 30-35 films on the script, years on this, writing the script for this film, would want to make a controversy, that too after 10 days of the release of a film, and is doing really well in all the languages at the box office.
Okay.
I really wonder.
So, Sumant, I want to come back to the political point, and I think a valid point that was raised by Mr. Muralidharan. Is there a sense that some of these fringe political parties, the VCK, the Nam Tamizhar Katchi, are basically hijacking what is the Dravidian mainstream, as it were, for their own narrow political ends, and they are, fueling this whole fire that Dravidianism was always anti-Hindu and was against Hindu icons and Hindu gods?
I think that as far as the VCK is concerned, and the communist parties are concerned, I would agree with you. The NTK is a slightly different entity. They are strong supporters of Shaivite religion. So they are not against religion itself. They claim that Shaivism is different and today's modern Hinduism is different, but they accept the worship of God. But Zaka, the thing is, what happens is something that the DMK is not realizing at this point of time, is that the narrative that is constantly, with debates on topics of whether Marudhur Gopalan, for instance, was a Hindu, and then A. Raja's statement a few days ago, and you have this kind of almost constant, plus of course the gaps by the various ministers. I think that the narrative is slowly being built that the DMK chief seems to have lost control over his alliance partners and indeed some of his own ministers. So I think that that's not good for the DMK from a political perspective. Clearly, look, the RSS wanted to have a rally on Gandhi Jayanti Day. The VCK was, not the DMK, the VCK it was who went to court and said that they want to hold a counter rally on the same day. So the court said the RSS to hold the rally in November and the VCK to hold their rally on the 11th of October.
Okay.
So I think that that was clearly a move which the DMK would have probably, nudge the VCK into acting. So I think that there is a narrative which is being created, and for the DMK, they have to understand, Mr. Stalin needs to understand that times have changed. We are not in the 60s and 70s.
All right, I'll give Rahul the final word.
One point, Zaka.
Quickly, yeah.
By the way, Kamal Hassan is incorrect when he says that the word Hindu was coined by the British. That is factually incorrect. It has been there from the 15th century onwards.
Okay.
So that again is incorrect.
All right, Rahul, I'll give you the final word. Again, I come back to where I stared off. Saying that Rajaraja Cholan was not a Hindu king is like saying Tipu Sultan was not a Muslim king. I mean, it's as big a truism as there would be.
Saka, the word Hindu comes from Sindhu, and the Persians and the Arabs used to call it Hapta Hindu, and because they didn't have S, Asura became Ahura. But the core point here is, as a Hindu activist from Brahmin community, I concede there has been some historical injustices which really provoked the Dravidian movement at that point of time. But we have reformed ourselves greatly through people like Swami Vivekananda or Mahatma Gandhi or Subramania Bharati or even Periyar Ramaswamy Naikar. So it is time to shun this divisiveness, accept as it is. There are Shaivites, and how can you deny such an obvious reality? Just because you don't like some historical injustices, you cannot, deride Hinduism as such or Hindu culture as such.
All right,
so
we'll leave it at that. I'm completely out of time. Thanks very much.
धस जाए ये धरती या चटक जाए आकाश, न्याय के हाथों होकर रहेगा न्याय का सर्वनाश। के दो पैरों से अन्याय के 10 सर कुचलने। आ रहा हूं अधर्म का विध्वंस करने।
Hello everyone, you're watching News Epicenter with me, Maria Shakil. The trailer for Om Rawat's Adi Purush was released just a few days ago, and it's slated to be released next year. What started as criticism over the quality of VFX, the film is now at the center of a cultural storm over the depiction of Hindu deities. The film, starring actor Prabhas, Saif Ali Khan and Kriti Sanon, is under fire for misrepresenting and insulting the Hindu epic. After some BJP leaders threatened to take legal action if the objectionable illustrations are not removed, the head priest of the Ram temple in Ayodhya has sought a ban on the film. He claims the sentiments of Hindus have been hurt as gods have been portrayed incorrectly. Some of the objections to the film are over Hanuman wearing leather and Ravan's portrayal, which many say has been Islamized, resembling Mughal figures like Babur and Aurangzeb. Some BJP leaders have even called for the filmmakers to be banned from the film industry altogether. The counter from artists is that this portrayal is protected under the right to free speech, and creative licenses have been taken over the portrayal of the Ramayana in the past, from graphic novels to comic books to animated movies. In a attempt to market it to the next generation, to keep the epic alive in modern India. But time and again, the depiction of Hinduism in movies has sparked controversy. And we once again ask the question, who draws the line between faith and creative licenses? Before we pose that question to our panel, here's what happened today.
धस जाए ये धरती या चटक जाए आकाश, न्याय के हाथों होकर रहेगा न्याय का सर्वनाश.
A 1-minute 46-second teaser and a row that resounds nationally. Amid the criticism of the VFX used comes a big political and religious uproar.
आ रहा हूं न्याय के दो